one-step conversion. So International System of Units, or the metric system, which is what most of the world goes by, has a different way to measure than in the US. So for weight, you might actually be weighed in kilograms. Or if you have a smaller unit, right, it could be just grams. If you need something smaller to be measured. Then, when we talk about volume, we're going to talk about it in terms of like liters. And what's great is about the metric system is this is considered right here, like liters and grams, like that's our base unit. And then we can have a prefix that can either indicate that it's a really large measurement, like kilograms, or a smaller one, which would be milligrams, which would be smaller. That's the great thing about the metric system is you have a base unit and then you have a prefix to indicate if it's either a small or larger one or if it's just a base unit. So it kind of helps a lot. Then when we talk about the distance or like the length, we can talk about it in terms of meters, which is another, right? Millimeter would be a much smaller one, but a kilometer is a much larger distance, right? So then we talk about the US, right? Well, for mass, we can talk about it in terms of pounds, right? That's usually how we measure ourselves, but you can also talk about it in terms of ounces, right? How many ounces does it weigh? Then, when we talk about volume, we can also have ounces, which is now a volume, right? Like how much a space takes up, right? So an ounce, right? Or you can talk about it in terms of cups or quarts or gallons. So these are all measurements, right, for volume for the US. But then when we talk about distance, we're going to talk about it in terms of, right, we can see like a nice inches. We can talk about in feet or yards or miles. Now let's go ahead and look at the first example. So example 1, if a newborn measures to be 19 inches long, how long is the baby in centimeters? Well, 19 inches. Well, what's our relationship between inches to centimeters? Because that's how we're going to go ahead and convert this into centimeters, right? Well, we know 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So when we set this up, we have inches here, and we do a conversion factor. So we can either use it as like this, or like this. And the thing is, right, when we know that when something's on the top and on the bottom, it cancels out. So we need inches, right, to be on the bottom when we use the conversion factor that goes right there. So we're going to go ahead and use this one. So 2.54 centimeters is equal to 1 inch. Well, what happens is this inches cross out, which is exactly what we want, because we need inches to go away, because we need to measure in right now centimeters. So we get centimeters on the top, which is exactly what we want. And what we do is we just multiply it like it's a fraction. We multiply what's on the top, then you multiply what's on the bottom, which is just over 1. So it's just going to become whatever's on the top, right? So 19 times 2.54. Let's get our calculators out. And we get 48.26. And this is in centimeters, right? Because this would just be right over 1, because 1 times 1 is 1, which really just gets us to 48.26. Now, let's go ahead. So we would actually just, don't even worry about that 1, but you can know that when it's over 1, it's just whatever is on top of them. So we would say 48.26 centimeters is how long the baby is. Now let's go ahead and look at the next example. So example 2, a person weighs 57 kilograms. Let's convert kilograms to pounds. So we have 57 kilograms. We're going to just keep it like that. And what do we know about this relationship? Well, we know 2.2 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. So we can put 2.2 pounds over 1 kilogram, or we can go 1 kilogram over 2.2 pounds. Now, the reason why we can use these conversions like this right, they're called conversion factors, is because this is all equal to 1, right? 2.2 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. If something weighs 2.2 pounds, it means it also weighs 1 kilogram, right? They're interchangeable, but one way is to measure in the metric system, one's in the US. So that's why we can use these as like just fractions. And when you multiply it by the whatever number you're trying to convert it from one to another, it's like multiplying it by 1. So let's go ahead and take this. So we need to go from 57 kilograms to pounds. We need this kilograms to be on the bottom here because we need to get rid of it. So that means pounds has to go on the top. So when we look at our conversion factors, we need to use this first one that we have here. And then we would just go ahead and multiply. We would multiply 57 times 2.2, and that would get us 2 pounds, right? And then we multiply whatever on the bottom, which is just 1 times 1, so that's 1. So let's get our calculators out. We have 57 times 2.2, and that's equal to 125.4. And that would be pounds, right? Because these kilograms crossed out, and we're left with just pounds. So what are we left with? Well, 125.4 pounds. That's how much that person, right, weighs. Now let's go ahead and do the last example. So example 3, a car holds 16 gallons of gasoline. Let's convert 16 gallons to liters. So we're going from, right, gallons to liters. Or gallons to liters, like that. Now, what do we know about this? Well, we know 1 gallon is equal to 3.785 liters. So, like 1 gallon of milk, right, is equal to, if you put them in liters, right, it's almost about 4 liters, right, if you were to round up. So, we're going to use this as a conversion. We can have 1 gallon over 3.785 liters. Or we can do 3.785 liters to 1 gallon, right? So we're going to have to look to see which one we want to use. Well, we want to get rid of gallons. That means gallons need to be on the bottom. And then the liters would be on the top. So we're going to go ahead and use the second one. So when we go ahead and multiply, right, we're going to go 16 times this 3.785. Right, and we can put this over 1 and then multiply what's on the bottom. We get 60.56, and then 1 times 1, well, that's just 1. Gallons cancel out, so we're left with just liters. So 60.56 liters is what we're left with.